DSLR film.
NOOB. All right, guys, so what I've got for you today is the Tascam DR-60D. I'll give you an unboxing of the Tascam DR-60D, but there isn't anything in the box besides the unit, a USB cable, and a manual for the device. You don't get a complimentary set of batteries or a memory card or even a strap to go along with these two little wings that it has on the front of the unit. This is designed to be mounted under your camera. It is a 4-track recorder that can work as a beachtek or Juicedlink type device and feed audio directly from this into your camera. It also has 2 XLR 1/4-inch inputs as well as a 3.5mm jack. But that's enough of the overview. Let's take a closer look at the Tascam DR-60D. Taking a closer look at the Tascam DR-40, let's go ahead and see how long it takes to fire up. Holding the power button right now, and it looks like it takes about 3 seconds roughly to get started. The menus are pretty easy to understand. You just hit this menu button right here and use the scroll wheel in the middle to select what you want. If we click here on record mode, you'll see that it's in mono right now with channel 1 selected. If I go over here, you can see that you have stereo mode, which gives you the option to record from channel 1, channel 2, or the 3.5mm input. We've also got dual mono mode, which records one channel to 2 different volume levels. And we've got dual stereo, which allows you to record 2 tracks to 2 different volume levels. And then, of course, the 4-channel mode. All these can easily be selected, and once you've chosen what you want, you can also decide whether you want the 2 XLR combo jacks or whether you want to use the 3.5mm jacks. Those are labeled as 3 and 4 on here. The Tascam DR-40 also offers up a bunch of other interesting features, including the option to add tones at the beginning and the end of your recording. If you use that as a reference to find stuff, you can trigger this on volume inputs so you can start recording when, say, somebody claps their hands or a clapboard hits or whatever. It also gives you a nice little warning when you turn the phantom power on a channel. That way you can check to make sure that you have the right microphone plugged in and don't damage a mic that can't handle 48 volts or 24 volts phantom power. One of the nice things that I liked when I first saw this was the big knobs. The problem is these are not analog potentiometers. Instead, they are rotary encoders. And I will show you why that is a problem in just a minute. But that's the basics of the Tascam DR-40. Now let's do some audio samples. All right, for this test, I am recording audio directly into the Canon 5D Mark III. That audio is coming from the Tascam DR-60's camera output on the left-hand side of the unit. Basically, I'm using this like you would a beachtek or a Juicedlink device. You can see it's about the size of my hand right here, so it is a little bit unwieldy, but it does seem to work that way. One side note is if you're recording an audio track that is mono directly into the Canon 5D Mark III from the camera output, even if you have it in dual mono mode on the Tascam DR-60, the output signal has the same volume on the left and the right channel. So keep that in mind. If you want to adjust that and have the left channel or the right channel be higher than the other, you need to hit the mixer button and select the balance and either dial that to L9 or L8 or R9 or R8. That gives you a higher volume level on the left or the right channel and a lower volume level on the left or the right channel, depending on which way you have the pan set. So keep that in mind if you want to make sure and have protected audio recorded directly to your camera, as well as on the Tascam DR-60. All right, so let's go back to the menu here and click on the menu and take a look at the input settings. I'm going to click here, and you'll notice that right now I am in channel 1 and the gain is set to low. If we click on that, you have 3 settings: low, medium, and high. You also have the option of a limiter that you can turn on and off, a low cut filter, which allows you to select different frequencies to have a roll off on the low end if you'd like to remove rumble or what have you. And of course, you have delay for the input if you have some latency that you're trying to deal with. These are the same for channel 2. And then channel 3 and 4 are tethered together for your gain settings, as well as your limiter and low cut filter. If you want to break those out, you're probably going to have to use a Juicedlink or beachtek type device so that you have independent control of the left and right channel going into that 3.5mm jack. All right, this time I'm recording audio from the line out on the Tascam DR-60 into the Canon 5D Mark III. The audio is still panned to the left a little bit, so that way I get the protected signal and the normal level signal at the camera. The line out puts out a stronger signal, so I only have to have this set to 2 on the output as opposed to 10 like I did on the camera output. Keep that in mind. If you need to feed other devices, the line out does put out a stronger signal than the camera output. Taking a look at the record settings, you have the option of recording at 24-bit and 16-bit broadcast wave format. That still gives you a WAV file, it's just that it has a little bit of extra metadata attached to it, including the time and date of the recording. If you click down here, you'll notice that you have 44.1, 48K and 96K sampling rates, depending on your project needs. Moving on down the line, you have a self timer, whether you want to monitor audio out of the device. You have the option for pre-record, which will allow you to record just a little bit before you press the record button, giving you a little safety in case someone starts talking a little bit early, along with some other features that you may or may not be interested in. That's pretty much the stuff you'll focus on in the menu. You do have some playback settings, as well as some other settings, which is actually labeled other settings, which is just your time and date information, as well as the backlight for the screen and so on. All right, so for this first test, I've got my trusty Audio-Technica 4073 plugged into the Tascam DR-60. I am using phantom power at 48 volts on the Tascam to power this microphone. In the channel menu, I've got the gain setting at low, and I've got the input volume knob turned all the way up so I can get a good signal level. Here is me talking, here's some silence, and here's me talking again, so you can get an idea of what the noise floor sounds like. Also have links to the audio files so you can download them in the crotch bar below. Now, I mentioned earlier that there was an issue with the encoders since they don't use a potentiometer, which is an analog device. The encoders kind of square wave the volume up and down. If you're not sure what square wave is, Google it, and that will probably help you understand what's going on. Now, when you're talking into a microphone, there are a lot of gaps between each of the words that you say, and that gives an encoder the opportunity to operate discreetly. So if I'm talking 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, you don't usually hear the clicks from the encoder operating, which is a handy thing to know. Now, if you have a constant audio level on the input, you'll start to hear a clicking noise as the encoder steps down the volume. So if I whistle into the microphone, you hear that clicking noise, and that's because that constant signal is being chopped by the encoder as it goes into the recording. So keep that in mind if you're someone who likes to ride the faders. If you hit this monitor select button up here, it gives you the option to change the feed to the monitor output for headphones to any of these sources you have. So depending on what you want to hear, you can decide which inputs you would like to have pass through to the headphone jack. All right, for this next test, I've got the same setup as I did before. This time I have the gain setting set at medium on the channel gain setting, and I have the volume knob at the front of the unit turned to about a quarter volume. That gives me good levels for recording into the Tascam DR-60. I'm beaming the audio back to the camera for reference with my trusty Wii audio link right here, and I am standing the same distance away from the microphone. Here's some silence with the medium gain. And here's me talking again, so you can get an idea of what the noise floor sounds like. If you press the mixer button, you'll see that you have pan and level options. This is actually where you can select the left and right inputs for the 3.5mm jack and adjust the level accordingly. It means you can independently control them, although when you're in recording mode, you do not actually have a knob down here to adjust them independently. This knob just adjusts both the levels. So you'll have to set those up ahead of time, and it's kind of a set and forget type option. All right, so for this last test, I have the channel gain setting set to high on the Tascam DR-60. I have the front volume knob turned all the way down, and I had to actually step away from the mic about 4 feet so that I don't get a hot signal. Now, I am getting a little bit of echo, and that's because when I'm further away from the mic, it's picking up the bounce from the walls. I apologize for that. I haven't quite soundproofed this area of the studio yet. I will get to that eventually. Anyway, here's some silence with the high gain setting. And here's me talking again, so you can use that to listen to the noise floor and see what it sounds like. Again, I'll have all these audio samples available for download in the crotch bar below. On a side note, I am recording at 24-bit 48K, and I have the dual mono mode set up on the Tascam DR-60. So when you download those tracks, you will get one high volume level and one slightly lower volume level. I have it set to -8 dB. After spending over a week playing around with the Tascam DR-60D, I can safely say that I was reasonably impressed with the audio quality. It's nice that this thing can be used as an under-camera audio adapter or as an independent field recorder, and it has a ton of options for audio inputs and outputs, making it pretty versatile for all kinds of applications. It's also nice that they do have these little straps, so if you're using it as an independent field recorder, you could hang it off of a neck strap of some kind. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with that, so you're gonna have to hunt one of those down yourself. I like the build quality. It feels reasonably solid, even though it is made out of plastic. There are no really crazy sounding rattly bits that feel like they're gonna fall off of here, so it is built pretty well. Two negatives though. First is the rotary encoder that I mentioned earlier. If you are going to be recording a constant audio signal, make sure you keep that in mind. Also, make sure you carry a lot of extra batteries with you. With regular batteries, I was going through about 4 batteries every 3 hours. With these high-end Envelope Extreme batteries, I'm getting about 4.5 hours with the phantom power on and roughly 5 to 6 with the phantom power turned off. Kind of depends on whether you have the backlight on the screen and other options enabled or disabled on the device. But you will need an extra set of batteries if you plan to do an entire day worth of shooting. As I mentioned before, you can follow the links in the crotch bar below to download audio samples of the Tascam DR-60D in action. Take a listen to those samples and see if it's right for your application. Also have a full write-up along with images over at DSLRFilmNoob.com. As always guys, thanks for watching, and if you like this content, please subscribe.